We now move from creative behavior to financial behavior and to the role of AI in reshaping how people understand, access, and trust financial services. Our next panel is Fintech, AI, and Trust, Redesigning Financial Behavior. Financial technology is no longer only changing how people pay, it is changing how they understand money, make decisions, and build confidence in financial services. This session will explore how AI, data, algorithms, and user experience are shaping personalization, accessibility, digital payments, fraud prevention, and financial inclusion, and how innovation can move forward without compromising transparency or trust. Moderating this discussion is Hania Tarek, Country Manager of Plug and Play Egypt, and joining her are Ahmed Metwally, VP and Mastercard Egypt Country Manager, Ahmed Abaza, Chief Executive Officer of Synapse, and Osama Abbas, Vice President of Fintech at E&, Egypt. Please welcome our moderator and panelists to the stage.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. We hope we give you some very interesting insights through this panel. I'm personally very excited to be here, to be moderating, and to also listen in from three extremely insightful and extremely relevant entities that are taking place here today on stage. Quick intro, my name is Hania Tarek. I'm the country manager for Plug and Play in Egypt. We're an international global VC. We are an open innovation platform, actually based in Silicon Valley, but we also have a beautiful office here in Cairo, so we do bridge the gap today. First of all, we'd like to start on the fact that, like a term, that 100%, if not more, we have a 100% penetration rate of SIM cards in Egypt. So that means that people have not one, but 2 SIM cards sometimes. And I think it's a very important to start here and give the floor to our panelists to tell us a bit more about how they see that we can collaborate together and how this financial system does not exist without different entities playing different roles. So I'll leave the floor first to Osama to tell us a bit more about this piece of information and how telcos play a role in this in our financial ecosystem.
Thank you, Hania. I think SIM cards has been in the pocket of everyone in the country. I think what we've been trying to do is, as telcos, is to move forward and support our consumers with more than a SIM card. So what we've been trying to do for a very long time is how to give access to our consumers to have a stored value account. So with mobile wallets penetration, with mobile wallets in mind, we were focused on enabling the mass consumers, the millions of users that using currently or relying on telcos to provide connectivity. And one of the connectivities that we can actually enrich our consumers' life is the financial connectivity. So what we call mobile wallets, احنا دلوقتي we're more than 50 million wallet users in Egypt on the Egyptian market. What we've been trying to do is to enable them with access to store their money on their mobile SIM cards, and to have access to money transfer, to have access to payments, to have access to everyday life payment needs in a way. So we believe that we play a major role in this domain by using the tech of Mastercard, the capabilities of Synapse to reach out to the masses. So we're designed to serve masses. We're designed to serve millions. This is what we're good at. We're designed to provide propositions that actually enrich people's life. And this is what we did with the mobile wallets on this domain. And we enabled a lot of them. Yani, if you can remember back in 2020 with when the COVID hit the ground, we were able to give them access to move money without actually moving. So this was the kickstart of the mobile wallets back then in 2020. And this has changed a lot of people's life. So I think we all remember the time where the social media and e-commerce in that space was lagging the access to pay. We provide the access to pay to the millions. We provide them access to actually build small businesses over meta platforms, Facebook, WhatsApp, and other platforms as well, to start to accept money from using their wallets. So with this, we like democratize the access to financial services. So the financial inclusion rate have been tremendously increasing throughout the last 5 to 6 years, because we have been collaborating together between multiple players, banks, ecosystem players like Mastercard, Synapse, regulatory environment as well, to actually support the main objective of include as much as we can the excluded majority of financial services. So I think this was the key game changer for the industry.
Thank you, Osama. And building on what you mentioned about giving access to the masses, it's also important to understand how these processes actually take place, like how does money move and how are the big players that play a role in the infrastructure. So moving on here to Ahmed Metwally from Mastercard, we can see that AI is shaping a lot of the financial ecosystem, like many other sectors. But what do you think is changing customer expectations, like how they invest, how they spend, how they save, and especially that the role that Mastercard plays? Some people think that Mastercard is just what we see on a card on the bank, in a credit card, but it's way more than that. So if you can tell us also the role that you play.
Sure. Thank you very much. First of all, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having us here today. It's a pleasure and honor to be with you. And like you said, Mastercard is not only the card that you have in your pocket right now, it's actually an ecosystem provider of technology and different kinds of solutions. And like you said, and like Osama was just saying as well, processing billions of transactions. So definitely AI is at the core of this, where we have been leveraging different kinds of solutions to ensure that we're able to process this information and this data in real time, as well as in a secure and trusted manner. And what you said about what consumers expect and what customers have been looking at, for sure, the evolution of the needs has changed. So personalization is something that we all are witnessing today on social media, as well as what you see in your feed or what you see on your phone and how you want to personalize how you're interacting with technology. So AI at the core of that is actually helping us in real time provide the right kind of information or the right kind of experience for the customers. Also, when it comes to the financial services itself, how can AI be used to help the customer find the right kind of investment, find the right kind of saving, find the right kind of payment, and for example, agentic commerce. And this is something that we've also done already before, where you can now talk to an AI agent, and this agent will go and process a task. To do so, this task can be, for instance, someone wants to purchase a specific item or travel to a certain destination. How can the AI ensure that based on the needs and the data that it has, building on the different kinds of data information available, such as its EN case with billions of data sets. How can you leverage this data to build the right kind of personalized experience to provide the customer with the exact destination or product that matches my preference, matches my desire, matches my interests? And all of this, how can this happen in a secure manner? And this is where Mastercard plays a huge role in tokenizing this event, so that when you are adding the card to the experience itself, this is a tokenized transaction where you ensure that no matter what, this transaction will go through as long as you're giving it the right kind of approval rate to go in and make the transaction. So definitely, yes, this is something that has evolved and AI has been changing. And last but not least, and more importantly, the industry itself has to evolve in a way to ensure that AI is a trustworthy solution. And if there's no balance between trust and sharing of data, this is where the risk is going to be evolving. So, and that's what we do as an ecosystem player as well, as part of this ecosystem, is to ensure that there is a trust in the data that is being provided, whether it's the card data, whether it's the personal data, because in the end, if there's no balance in this, then no matter how fast AI advances, how many use cases it touches upon, it will still not be accepted by the customers. And that's, I was hearing the previous panel, the previous panelist was talking about how AI wants to become very human and how much they want to make sure that you trust that this, you can actually use this technology. So in order for you actually to trust that, you need to ensure that there's a secure layer behind that the data is protected, that nobody can hack this information, and that's one of the things that we as Mastercard always invest and play on.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ahmed, for this. And building on your idea of trust, we also want financial institutions to trust us and to give us access to credit, for example. So that actually brings us back to how, to Ahmed, Abaza, and if you could tell us really how you feel that, how Synapse is actually working from the decision angle of how to grant people access to with their credit score, and how AI is playing a role in that, making it also trustworthy on the other end. So what do you think are changes financial institutions from following certain rules to actually processing or using models such as yours?
Hello. Yeah. Thank you, Hania, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm very pleased and excited to be here with you all today. So, yeah, how does AI influence, the trust and giving credit access or financial access to people and in the different markets? So, one of the things I think that AI is solving, and the more financial institutions and the more clients we work with and more partners we work with, we are coming to the realization that AI is solving a design problem, not an access problem. Because, there's always, for example, if we take something like banks, right? Banks have always been, all of the banks have always been fighting for a very small segment of the population who are quote unquote bankable. And these, the banks, because these guys have certain attributes, for example, like regular income, or they have a certain amount of income, or they work at certain companies and so on. These are the only people that are deemed trustworthy. Although when you work with it bit by bit, you go into finding like a large swath of the population are actually excluded from that. And what AI is doing, it's making multiple things happen. First of all, it's creating some of the very first partnerships in the market. For example, telco companies like EN, for example, are now partnering with some of the balance sheet owners to basically provide financial facilities to customers that were not actually going to be accepted by those balance sheet owners, by the lenders themselves. But what happened is, using the telco data and some creative AI engineering, we were able to prove that these people who have never taken any type of financial facility whatsoever are actually trustworthy, and they have a very high probability of repaying any type of financial facility. So that's one thing that AI is creating. It's creating a very unique ecosystem of data providers, decision providers like ourselves, and like distribution providers who provide telcos or fintechs who can provide great UX, easy to use UX, and speed at the same time on distribution channels. And they're creating this very unique ecosystem of partnerships that's creating a lot of financial access. The second thing is, in the last 10 years, almost Egypt have successfully, through different financial inclusion programs, have brought more than 50 million people into the financial system. Now, all of these people have accounts. They don't have credit access, to say. And again, this is back to financial institutions, especially enterprise financial institutions, are unable to provide any type of, creditworthiness assessment of these people. They lack the data, they lack, the credit history, and so on and so forth. So when we come in and we provide different types of, AI-powered policies, what happens is that we change credit policies from being very static house of card-like policies that everybody is afraid to touch, because if we touch them, we can increase our MPLs by that much, and we can reduce our acceptance rates by that much, and so on. From a very static policy that never changes for years and years to a living, breathing policy that with every decision, it gets better and better at creating creditworthiness assessment to different people. And we now find, for example, the 50 million people who now have accounts in the different banks and so on, now actually have a chance, because they went through some sort of a pre-approval process, that most of these people actually have a chance to get credit access. Very quick example, we worked with a company that was giving financial facilities to specifically widowed women, or women in underprivileged areas who basically, they have kids and so on, and they didn't have any type of, they couldn't get any credit facilities to basically create their own projects and so on. And now this company came in and was providing these people with, different types of credit facilities. And for years and years, they have tens of thousands of women who actually took these facilities. Now, what happened is we saw that they had a very unique, what we call very unique data exposure. These women are basically, like most institutions are blinded to. They don't see them, although they have very high repayments. And what this company did is that they worked on their own AI. They trained algorithms that were able to provide intelligence. If a similar person, if a similar profile went out to apply for any type of credit facility, they can actually be granted that loan. And now what this company is doing, they're able to resell this intelligence to different financial players who are able to leverage this algorithm and be able, imagine, for example, the big banks are able to provide these types of profiles with credit facilities, although they have no history. These women have no credit history whatsoever. They just apply on a self-declared, basically, type of application, and now they can have access from the big banks and so on. So just to summarize everything, AI is creating a sort of very unique partnerships in the market. It's creating exposure to different segments that were completely blinded to in the past years. And now everybody, it seems, because we have now data providers, we have balance sheets providers, and we have AI engineers or AI decision providers who are all working together to make sure that the market is exposed enough and have access to not only bank accounts or not only accounts, but also credit facilities and financial services as well.
Thank you very much, Ahmed. And I think drawing on something you mentioned at the beginning was that AI is not solving, is not about an access problem, it's a design problem. And I think, Osama, we had also discussed this about how financial inclusion is not just about providing access to people, but it's also giving them the education that they need to be able to make sound decisions or sound financial decisions and be able to use the services that are being offered. So maybe if you can tell us also the role that telcos play or an entity like yours in really educating consumers on all of these technological features and services.
Okay, so we've been, it's a journey that we've been, what we've been doing in the market. So we enabled millions of users to have access to payment, to transfer. But so the financial inclusion rates have been increasingly significantly, but the underserved population is now the key question. So they are financially included, they have a stored value account, but they're not yet having access to real financial services as saving. How can I save? Is it stocks trading? Is it money market funds? Is it time deposit accounts? What type of saving that I can actually use? So in this domain, we believe that telcos play a major role in educating the mass majority on starting from what are they spending at? So our spend behavior, I think we all struggle to do this. We all don't know actually how much are we spending on which category, okay? So we try to help consumers to understand their spending behavior and to spot where are the opportunities to save and what are the opportunities and when to take credit. So we've been working closely and co-creating with Mastercard, with a lot of providers on the Fintech domain and using multiple AI tools to provide what we call a personal finance manager, okay? So everyone will have an AI agent, okay, in their mobile phones, in their mobile app, which give them advices on what they're overspending at, where they are actually the saving opportunities, and there's multiple saving opportunities. So I can use 50 LE to invest in or add it into a money market fund account. And if I manage to save 50 LE on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, how this 50 LE will grow into a significant amount. What is my financial objectives? I'm trying to save to buy a new motorcycle or saving for my kids' education and so on. So we will use AI tools, we will co-create with Fintech service providers the relevant services that help the mass majority to understand the financial services. And we believe that this is a journey that not only telcos, but telcos as they're designed to serve masses, they know the language that they can use to actually educate consumers on these financial services. And I believe in E&, we're taking serious steps in that domain. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And honestly, I always tell my team that we work in a VC, and we invest in so many tech companies. But please teach me how to save money. So it's how can you actually make investments that will actually allow you to save in the future.
And Fintechs have been innovatively creating so many tools. So from fractional purchase metal savings, so now you can get a fraction of a gold, a fraction of a silver coin as well. So this actually more inclusive. This gives access and actually improve people's life by give them the advice of doing so.
Yeah. 100%. And I'd like to come back to you, Ahmed, about given that Mastercard really sits in the middle of so many of the institutions, like from the consumer side, business side, financial institutions side. So how do you think that the industry can merge innovation, transparency, security, given that you are processing an extreme amount of data, and you had mentioned it in the first intervention about how this data is really important to stay secure and to stay transparent given the volumes. So please let us know what you think.
Yeah, definitely, like you said, the data is at the heart of everything. Even AI, it's dependent on data sets in order for it to be able to do what it does today. And at Mastercard, the data trust and data security is the core function that we all follow in terms of a principle that data is, and it's personal, it's private. In the end, it's your data. It's not anybody else's data to be able to see it, and it's a very strict kind of Chinese wall, no matter what. Even the systems themselves that speak to each other through APIs, this data is also in a way tokenized in a way. So for example, if you're talking about Apple Pay, the card itself on Apple Pay, this is a tokenized card. Apple does not see the card details of only the bank and the customer, of course. So data is at the heart of it, and in order for all the advances that are able to happen in this ecosystem, data must stay secure, and at the same time, back to the education of the customer, we also need to help the institutions and the customers protect this data. So one of the things that we do at Mastercard is we ensure that how can we leverage AI to detect if there's a certain threat or if there's a certain kind of fraud attack and block a transaction before it occurs or stop a transaction before it happens, because as we go scaling and we go to the masses, the education becomes a little bit less and less, and awareness is becoming a challenge. So this is something that we always ensure that we look at, working with the different players in the market to continuously help them educate their own customers at the end. So for instance, another example that we've been working on is what we call a digital human. So a digital human is an AI agent that has an avatar kind of design and can actually interact with you and speak with you and talk to you. So one of the things that we use that not only for external that our customers can use with their customers, but also for internal to educate their own staff and train their own staff on any kind of risks associated with data sharing, for instance. To the point that you can even use such a digital human to educate your own customers of a simulated fraud attack. Let's say someone trying to, you all hear the stories, حد اتكلم في التليفون عايز ياخد رقمك عشان يبعت لي فلوس. فالحاجات دي طبعا, unfortunately these things happen, and this has to do with the lack of knowledge and awareness. Another thing that AI helps you on is actually going scale by educating these people on these data sets. And of course, the data security and encryption and in real time is very important, because as a railway and network scheme, this data is being transferred in milliseconds at real time. And that ensures that every time it's transferred from one point to another point, it's always secure and in a way that happens. So at the end, trust is very important, and to build the trust, you have to have the right infrastructure, and the ecosystem has to have the right kind of technology, whether it's a software or the hardware readiness to be able to protect this data. And at the same time, you have to have the right kind of knowledge and awareness, and this will happen internally through us as ecosystem providers that are dealing with customers, and externally from the ecosystem providers who are actually educating their own customers, like Osama mentioned, for example, on the financial inclusion in e-and. This is a long track that you have to keep continuously educating them on the risks of data sharing and so on. And AI has helped us a lot in doing so, whether it's equipping us from the back end or from the front end as well, helping them on that front.
Thank you, and actually I'll draw on that exact last point. Thank you for mentioning it, equipping people on the back end or the entities, the financial institutions. So coming here back to you, Ahmed, on for example, a person that gets rejected, and taking it back from the other side of, yes, we provide access, but also sometimes some decisions will be declined. How do we ensure that these decisions are also explainable and or challengeable. Can you tell us a bit more, given the volume of data that's being processed?
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, there are like multiple points to this one. First of all, you know, I was giving a workshop for a few banks last week, and I asked them, if you are using AI to give people, you know, like any sort of like assessment and so on, should you tell the person who's being audited or who's being, you know, assessed by an AI, should they know that they're being assessed by an AI or not? And this just sparked an incredible debate within the group, and you know, people had very, very strong opinions on it. So I think the very first step is the person who's applying, and there is an AI that is, you know, assessing them, they should be aware of that. They should be aware that, you know, the application would run through an AI. Now, if they get rejected, the bank or the enterprise or the company should be able to provide reasons why they got rejected. And this is why, for example, when we work with any of the banks or any of the financial institutions, explainability reports are a main mandate that we work on. Not only from the regulator standpoint, because the regulator, of course, whenever they audit any type of financial institution, of course, they have to provide exactly why this person, you know, like their what we call the risk acceptance criteria, or RAC, they have to explain it, and they have to provide it with very, very particular detail. Now, if the customer if they got rejected, and the customer asks why I got rejected, the bank, or again, the financial institution, should provide them with enough reasons of why it happened. And then they could ask for a reassessment. And now, this is tricky, because sometimes you need to have, if a person is dealing with a human, for example, you know, they could have some rationale of why they got rejected, for example, because they live in a certain governorate, for example. And part of the decisioning criteria of this institution that they will not work with any one of the in this governorate. And then the person would provide some evidence that, you know what, I'm unique, or I have a different case, and so on. And now if it's a human assessor, they could change their mind. When AI, we're not sure if it would change its mind or not. So AI also have to have, you know, a context to be able to change its output. So it's also dynamic enough to be able to, you know, reassess its decision and be able to provide that stuff. Of course, all of this is very difficult to do if you're, you know, creating just an AI credit scoring project. So AI never works in vacuum. It works within a policy, within systems of human and digital and data and so on and so forth. So AI has to mimic this dynamism, that it can reassess its decision and it can provide explainability. And if there is a ton, we were discussing what's a ton in English, but if they rebuttal, you know, the decision, the AI is able to actually go back and reassess and understand the context with which, you know, they can change the decision. So at the end of the day, as Ahmed said, it's always all about trust. And trust is about, you know, creating awareness of what I'm dealing with as a consumer. I'm dealing with an AI or a certain system. It's about, you know, it's about three cores. If I can, you know, say that this is not fair, and I have to have reasons why I got rejected, and so on and so forth. And of course, it's about accuracy as well, because at the end of the day, if the AI is always giving bad decisions, and every single decision they make, a person would yatan in the decision, something is wrong. The bank or the financial institution would actually cancel or just say that that's not working and I'm providing a very bad customer experience, and so on and so forth. So that's very important. And also that's when it comes to projects, like any AI project, we always have to think of these very minute details and edge cases and so on. Otherwise, we would break the trust between the organization and the AI, and between the organization and the consumer. And that's, of course, something that we try to avoid at all costs.
Thank you, Ahmed. I think this is very, very interesting take on this. And I wanted to maybe go back here to Osama on something that we discussed right before the panel, and you touched upon it, Ahmed, actually the idea of policies and the regulations that we operate in within the financial ecosystem. And I'm very happy, actually, I'm always very happy when someone says something great about Egypt and that we are actually advanced in multiple things. And when we're talking about financial institutions, we do have good policies and we do have really good regulators. So for telcos, you had mentioned that you operate under 3 jurisdictions
Yes.
when it comes to financial services. And if you could tell us a bit more about how does this play for you and how you feel that the regulations are actually supporting the growth of the market and the infrastructure.
What we've been doing with the regulator is actually central bank, NTRA, and FRA. These are the 3 regulators that we fall under. But the beautiful thing about this that they have established channels for dialogue. So we've been referring to consumers' insights, opportunities in hand, and discuss frequently the regulatory frameworks that actually serve or actually a barrier for us to unlock these opportunities. And with having a dialogue with all the 3 regulators, we managed to successfully build and develop a lot of services. So I remember back in 2020, again during the COVID time, so we had an issue with how to fund in the wallets with the consumers are all sitting at home. So we managed to develop with the regulator, with the central bank, with the NTRA, develop regulations to move money from banks to wallets. This is before the era of InstaPay, before we're building an IPN. And taking this and exponentially building a platform like IPN, the Instant Payment Network, the InstaPay that connects actually banks with unbanks, was an outcome of these ongoing discussions that we have. With the FRA as well, they've been pioneer in launching the electronic KYC. So this is helping a lot and saving a lot from onboarding cost to a lot of the fintechs, to even for a fintech player like us, to actually simplifying the onboarding experience to the consumer. This all is happening gradually with the ongoing dialogue that we have with all these 3 regulators. And of course, we all contribute to the vision of how to actually develop better future for Egypt, fintech, and financial service ecosystem. So I believe this was the key insight. We always have this arguments and back and forth and hurdles, but as long as the channel is open for dialogue, for defending your argument, setting or giving insights on consumers, on opportunities in the market, on best practices globally that actually help to develop the financial ecosystem, they always support this. So I'll give them that.
Thank you. Maybe a concluding remark for everyone. I'll start with you, Metwally. We had also discussed this maybe a bit before the panel, but can you tell us what you think, given that Mastercard is a global company with a huge network, how do you think that we can be have a future-ready ecosystem, given all of the changes that are happening constantly and geopolitically and around the world? I'm sure Mastercard operates very differently than any regular company. So what do you think we can do to be more future ready?
I mean, I think definitely collaboration is a key across all the different ecosystem players, whether it's the regulator, the government, the telcos, the financial institutions, the non-financial institutions, the schemes. This is how we can only succeed to be able to provide the right kind of experience, the right kind of financial services. So in the beginning, there was a mention about examples about how can we leverage data. and doing instant decisioning and being able to collaborate together. So as an example, Mastercard worked and has done an initiative with iScore as a government entity under, of course, the umbrella of one of the financial institutions in collaboration as well, for example, with data providers such as EAND, for example, in such cases, and to be able to build a model, which is something that Synapse would be able to do instant decisioning and instant scoring using alternative data sets. Because like Ahmed was saying in the beginning, not everybody has credit history. And this limits the addressable market to be able to provide credit. And like you said in the beginning, you want to give more credit. So we want to find a way to be able to give more credit, to be able to make more, and this helps the financial inclusion, this helps the whole economic situation in the country, and it's a full cycle. So having these kinds of examples where the collaboration occurs between government and non-government and private sectors together to play a role, to be able to build a secure, a trustworthy, a personalized kind of experience, to be able to also provide access to credit to those who are not able to get credit, helps them advance in the economy and ensures that we as a full market grow together. And of course, digitization is also very important. And this is a trend that we're seeing when it comes to the new generations. This is where the new generation expects everything to be instant, everything to be personalized. And that's why, surprisingly, despite unexpected what happened in the market when we as Mastercard worked with the government, worked with the different banks, and we launched Apple Pay almost 2 years now. When Apple Pay was launched, Apple, they saw the trend grow, the whole market saw the trend grow of the adoption despite the penetration of the iPhones is not as high as the Android in the market. And this shows why the new generations are looking for this kind of instant digital experience. So if we, in order for us to also advance, we have to work together to provide this digital kind of solution, provide this kind of experience, and AI can definitely help us with that, and being secure and being trustworthy and leveraging data and leveraging the kind of advances like you were saying, that we can go faster with the players that are faster to market and are more agile, are more kind of diligent. This can really help as well grow the ecosystem. So in a nutshell, collaboration between all the players. We have one agenda, and that is the financial inclusion agenda, and that's what we've been doing, and that's what we've been working on, and we're getting there, and it's getting better and better.
Thank you very much. And maybe lastly, for Abaza, if you can tell us, since you are also, you're now maybe not considered a startup anymore, but being a startup that supports such big players, please do tell us, what do you think also, let's say SMEs and startups can do to also play a role in this ecosystem and drive it?
I actually second Ahmed's point, and let me build on it a bit. You know, because you know when cars first came out, like when everybody was using horses and cars first came out, you know, the world wasn't yet adapted to cars, right? Like there were sand everywhere, and people didn't think that cars would take over because we didn't have roads or bridges or like traffic lights. So adoption was, you know, people were a bit skeptical about what would a world where cars are everywhere would look like. I think this is the same with AI and finance. Still, AI is still in the time where roads are still all sand and so on and so forth. So maybe let me give you a bit of a vision of what an AI-ready world would look like. So, especially, for example, in credit access, for example. Imagine that you have on your phone an unbranded credit card. So you have a credit card that no bank owns. And you go to a hotel, for example, and you pay with your credit card. Now, instantaneously, as Ahmed was saying, you get an instant verification, an instant decision of your creditworthiness, the limit, and the pricing right away, fully personalized on you. Now, again, this credit card is not owned by a certain bank. It's completely unbranded. And you get, for example, £100,000 in credit facility. and you don't actually know who gave you the credit facility. And like could be a bank that's not in town, that's not in the country. And actually the facility is not only granted by one bank, it's probably like 5 banks giving you the facility, every bank with a fraction of the facility that's given to you. And all of that happens instantaneously. Now the banks and the financial institutions would become, like a cloud-like or like, I have a term for it, it's called Uberization of balance sheets. So all the balance sheets are in the cloud, and whenever a request happens, based on the policies and based on the data that, for example, Mastercard provides or EAN provides or a bank provides, all of these, big players become a sort of like decision factories that enable you to get instantaneous verification and instantaneous worthiness assessment. And all of these balance sheets are actually giving you, fractions of facilities. And because some financial institutions have very high risk appetite, some have very low risk appetite, but everyone has a share depending on their appetite to give you the credit access that you want. And again, it's not limited by borders. It's not limited by, governorate or country. Like, it's in the cloud, like money lives in the cloud and it's provided to you right away through different
I like this vision very much.
Me too. I'm going to start using the decision factory analogy.
Sure, please. Yeah, so I think
cloud.
Yeah, I think that's how AI can really change how finance happens and financial access happens.
If I may,
Yes,
I mean,
of course.
this is actually, I think, thank you for sharing that, first of all. But I think one market I've seen that is going in that direction is India. India are actually, so we have IPN, instant transfers of money. Now they have reached instant lending. Yeah. So, and this is where, like you said, based on data sets, and I think I've even seen I can't remember the name of one of the companies. It's a startup, and now I think is going to be like IPO. That they're doing this, what you just mentioned. The banks are actually giving part of the financing based on the risk and policy somehow. And if that's a hybrid of your vision, I think this is where we can also eventually reach. And that won't happen without the collaboration, for sure, across. So yeah, so thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. Very insightful, صراحة. Thank you all for your time, and hope that you got some insights. I personally did. I love this panel. Thank you so much, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
إن شاء الله كلنا ناخد من AI من decision factory فلوس.